I can, loud and clear, my friend.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I appreciate you letting me come on here and ask this question. But with the new case law that happened, this is pretty specific to the West Coast, maybe just California.
Yep.
People versus Leal, I think it's Leal.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Basically, in certain circumstances, we've lost probable cause to the trunk of a vehicle unless we have specific probable cause. I'm wondering under what circumstances I have to adhere to that. Like that case is kind of specific because they watched him get close to the trunk but didn't see him go in it.
Yeah.
If I've got just your average, I found dope in the center console or it's open, I can see it from the window. Do I still have the trunk, or when do I lose the trunk now, I guess, in a probable vehicle
First of
search?
all, right. So first of all, you are a cop in California, and I think, is it fair to say that, Sean, we know each other, right? Have you been to one of my classes or no?
I have, yeah,
No.
department back then, but I've met you once in person, then I've gone to a bunch of your online stuff before.
Okay, okay, because I know I've taught at your agency. Well, yeah, I taught your agency right now. I don't say agency is on here just because I don't know if people want that on there. But anyway, so that's besides the point. So I'm glad you're here. So, Zach, do you want me to give a background on Leo, or do you want to?
Yeah, you can, either way.
So briefly, what happened is this, okay? So an officer is watching Leo, who is, I think, a juvenile, but he's at least on juvenile probation. So I guess he's not on adult probation, but he's on juvenile probation, and they see him with a firearm, and they see him. The undercover cop sees him put the gun underneath the front seat. He gets in, allegedly under the front seat, and then he gets into that car, and then they drive away. So he's a passenger. Leo is a passenger. And Sean, if I'm wrong about any of these facts, you let me know. Then, of course, marked units pull him over. They search the car for that firearm. He's on probation, right? And so they look for the gun. They do not find it. They then pop the trunk, and what do they find? They find the firearm. The Court of Appeals. Now, this is not a California Supreme Court decision, so it does not have, a massive amount of persuasive or binding authority, but it's definitely it's persuasive to a lot of states because a lot of places, because California is a Fourth Amendment state. They interpret the search and seizure under the Fourth Amendment, not their own constitution. So when the cop was asked in court, hey, did you have any reason to believe, the one that was watching Leo, that the gun was put in the trunk? Was there a pass through? Did you see him go into the trunk? Did you see anybody else go into the trunk? The answer was no. The only thing that they knew was that they thought that the gun was put under the seat, maybe because of further movements, and he was under constant observation. The court said that was an unlawful search of the trunk, and that's where Zach is going to come in and explain maybe what is going on here. Because a lot of cops, right, Zach, they think that if I have PC for the car, I get the whole car. And that's, I think, what Leo is saying is back up. That's not really what the law is.
Yeah. So the automobile exception potentially gets you the entire vehicle, but it's going to be driven by what you're looking for. And so if what they were looking for was this particular firearm, and they didn't have any reason, as you mentioned, on these facts to believe it was in the trunk. So, to carry that out to searching in a car for a user amount of drugs, unfortunately, the case law is not consistent. I'm pretty sure there's a New Jersey case that says if it's just a user amount that you find in the passenger compartment, you need additional facts to believe there could be more drugs in the trunk. Other states don't take that position. So, but what you're looking for is going to drive where you can look, and it's not automatically I get the entire bumper to bumper search of that car. So I think Lee's correct.
I think it is. I think it is in a sense that, first of all, look, what's that? Wyoming versus Houghton that's how I say it. Do you say Houghton?
I say Houghton.
Houghton. Okay, Houghton's probably more correct. So in Wyoming versus Houghton, the Supreme Court upheld the search of a passenger's purse that was near the driver when they had probable cause the driver had drugs in the car. And the reason I bring up Houghton is because a lot of cops think Houghton stands for the proposition that I own the car if I have PC. Have you heard that before, Zach? I mean, cops talk
Yeah.
like this. They're like,
Yeah.
if I got PC for the car, I own that car. We need, look, I'm getting all agitated here. We need to stop talking like that. Okay. Courts are done with this whole generic articulation business. They don't want to hear you own the car. That shit's mine. If I have evidence for, if I have probable cause for the car, I get the air box in the engine compartment. They want to know why. And maybe it's unfair, but they just want to know why. And Leal is an example of this. They just want to know the why. And when we go to court and say it's possible the gun could be in the trunk, well, possibility is not probability. You cannot search anything with a possibility. You can only search things with a probability. And this goes back to Ross. Okay. So you search the car as if you had a warrant. So let me read to you what Leal said. Okay. So Leal's 2023, California Appeals Court. It said a survey of cases applying the automobile exception reveals courts generally find warrantless searches of trunks and other enclosed compartments in a vehicle justified in 3 categories of circumstances. We didn't go into this detail, but it's pretty high level. It says 1, officers have probable cause to believe contraband or evidence of the crime will be found specifically in the trunk or other enclosed compartment. So what they're saying is, if your probable cause is specific, meaning your CI or your observation said, hey man, they put that gun in the air box, then that's probably where you get, right? Number 2, a search of the passenger compartment reveals contraband or other evidence generating further probable cause to search the trunk or other enclosed compartments. What they're saying here is, for example, you have you search a car and you find a fraud lab, the skimming devices and other things. And, you also see like receipts to based on this fraud, right? This fraudulent activity, you see receipts for a bunch of brand new items that were there from today. Like you saw that the guy bought a MacBook Pro from the Apple store with one of these fraudulent credit cards. Would that give you a reason to believe, right, that the evidence that MacBook Pro could be in the trunk? The answer is yes. So open the trunk. Or number 3, probable cause exists as to the entire car. Example, if the contraband or evidence of the crime will be found somewhere in the car, just somewhere in the car. The search of the trunk here, they said in Leal, the search of the trunk does not fall in any of these exceptions. So that last one is like, you have probable cause that this is a trafficking car. This car is involved in trafficking. It just came into Virginia, from Maryland. It's loaded down. That's your probable cause. Where do you get to search? You get to search the whole thing to find the trafficking evidence. And Shane is saying articulation. So that's really, I think, Sean, is going on in Leal. It is, I don't want to say it's a game changer, but I want to say that I've been kind of asking cops to be prepared to articulate a nexus for this stuff many, many years ago. And I'm not saying I was premonition. I'm just saying that I don't like cops saying, hey, we own the car. Those days are over. Courts don't like that stuff. That's where we're at. What do you think, Sean?
I appreciate it. I think there's a couple other California cases that basically prove that. I don't know, Brazil or something that came out last year talking about when officers say stupid things on camera and they can clearly tell they're trying to get into the car and search for places that don't really have probable cause. So that makes sense to me. I guess it's going to be more of a show. For a lot of cases, I think a lot of officers that want to get into cars the way that they used to, they'll just have to get better at articulating it.
Yeah, you look, I mean, that is no doubt. There's undoubtedly what you said is absolutely true. However, in 99% of these cases, it's business as usual. But you just have to be able to articulate. I mean, this guy was under surveillance 20, there was no lapse in surveillance. If there was a lapse in surveillance, then I think we win here, because then it's likely that he could put the gun in. Look, first of all, I got to tell you, when I read the case, Sean, like over a year ago, or whatever it was, that was the first thing I thought. I said, if this vehicle is really being surveilled with no brake, that, as the court said, how the hell did he get that gun in the trunk? Because that was his gun, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, what I thought to myself is that these cops are just like talking in generalities. I didn't break any constant contact. Well, clearly you freaking did. Somehow that gun made its way into the trunk. So clearly you did not surveil that car 100%. So don't talk like that. say the truth is probably that he probably looked over to the left at a pretty girl or something. And that's when the gun went into the trunk. In other words, we need to hear that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of case law that's just we've gotten because cops make bad reports and write it incorrectly. But
Well, you got me there, my friend. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So, all right. Good job.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, now beat it.